Well, blessed Thursday to you with your daily encouragement. And I apologize for being a little late today. I ask for your prayers for my parents. They are getting a direct hit, well, not a direct hit, but a very significant hit from the Hurricane Nicole that is coming in on the Atlantic side where they live in Florida. And in fact, my parents are preparing to evacuate right now. And so just want to let you know that that is going on. Their seawall is gone. They have no beach. And so I just want to ask for your prayers for them. That would be much appreciated at this time. But we do have a study today, and we are studying, of course, Dietrich Bonhoeffer's life together. And we have for today talking about the work life balance that he has been speaking of. And he says, the labor of the day comes to its end. When the day has been hard and toilsome, the Christian will understand what Paul Gerhardt, who is a hymn writer, meant when he said, my head and hands and feet their rest with gladness greet, and now their work is o'er. My heart thou too shalt be from sinful works set free, nor pine in weary sorrow more. A day long is last enough to sustain one's faith. The next day will have its own cares. And that's one thing I guess I'm taking a little consolation in today is that the just like the storms of life, this too will pass. We are reminded with the work that we do, this too will pass. Now, I've been blessed to have a job that I enjoy doing, work that from an earlier age, found that it would be fulfilling for me. And it has not just been fulfilling for me for a brief period of my life, but for a long, sustained period of my life. And that was one thing I learned, I should say, from my grandfather, who was a South Dakota farmer. And he always, we joked about him because when he turned 60, mid 60s, he moved with the rest of his family to the Twin Cities, and we often said that you couldn't take the South Dakota farmer out of him. He made almost all of his half of his suburban lot into a garden, which looked a lot like a farm. I would say I was very thankful that he had very tolerant neighbors because, as you know, you move to a city, you have a lot of ordinances, and I'm sure my grandfather broke numerous of them. But he was always kind of an anomaly that way because he loved to be in the soil. He loved to plant. He loved to do the things that were a farm. And even with that half piece of property that he had, I mean, he couldn't do toil the other half. He still even went to the community garden to grow some things too. And that was just his life. And he knew what he was destined to do in this life. He learned how to live it. But no matter how much we may enjoy our work, some of us maybe are finding a toil that is too burdensome. And maybe we are wondering, will there be a change, a respite in this life? As Paul Gerhardt in our hymn said, there is a reminder that no matter whether we enjoy life or we are toiling through life, it will come to an end. It is not the thing that defines us. When you talk about political ideologies, and one that comes to mind right away is communism, where everybody does their toil for the sake of the community. Or even if you talk about strict capitalism or fascism, where everyone is only useful because of the market that they are able to produce for the larger society. I'd say that our society can lead towards one or the other. It is the lie in both of them is that our only usefulness is whether we are A, money makers, or B, contributing to the community. And those are not the case when it comes to you and I who are created in the image of God. We have a time for work, but we also have a time for fulfillment. And that's where I think the day of rest comes in, the seventh day, the day that we are able to not just rest from our earthly um, works, I mean, none of us can completely stop doing work. I know that there's some very entertaining, sometimes tragic stories of our Jewish friends who really have that work defined, and so how they try to get out of it is about as crazy as how they try to sustain work for someone who doesn't have a day of rest. We can never completely get out of work, but we can have our life defined by something other than the work we do. And I've seen some, as we have aged and as we get older each and every day, especially if they're healthy enough, but they're not, should I say, sick enough to pass away. Sometimes I found some people finding them in a quandary. What do I do now? Because they had defined themselves so much by their work that they have no identity outside of it. And what we're reminded as a Christian is that our identity is in Jesus, in the baptism that we have been baptized with. And a lot of times some people complain about Lutherans stressing so much about baptism, but it is a promise. It is an identity. It is a claiming to be birthed into something that is new, something different from this life. It is not based on our family name. It is not based on our production or whether we produce or don't. That's what our work defines us. It's based on our claimant to being born into an eternal family that has been chosen by our Heavenly Father. You did not choose me, Jesus said, I chose you. And it is good to rest in that even as we toil in this life. To rest in that even as other people define us simply by what we do or don't do. We need to rest in that to know that we can live in the identity we have in Jesus Christ. God bless you today. We trust that these continue to be words of encouragement. And I thank you for your prayers already as we consider people that are in harm's way. And I ask again for your continued prayers for my family and for the people of the East Coast of Florida today. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next time.